Tales from Europe. The Snake and the Dreams. From Russia. In a certain land there was once a king who had a strange dream. As he slept, he saw a fox hanging by the tail from the roof of the palace. When he awoke, he remembered the dream and couldn't get it out of his mind. At last he called his ministers and counselors before him, asking if they could interpret the meaning of the fox hanging from the roof. His advisers couldn't help him, and as his recollection of the dream continued to trouble him, he at last commanded that there be a great convention in the city, and that everyone in the kingdom should attend. His hope was that, among all the citizens of the country, there would be someone wise enough to give him the answer. The people began to assemble. One of those who came was a poor farmer named Ivan. On the way to the city he came to a rocky place where he saw the trail was narrow. Lying in the center of the trail, he saw a snake. Ivan paused, and as he did so the snake spoke to him, saying, "Good day. Where are you going?" Ivan told him about the king's command. "But what is the use of it all?" Ivan asked. "How can I tell the king what his dream means?" "There will be a reward for the man who gives the king the right answer," the snake said. "Promise you will share the reward with me, and I will tell you what to say." Ivan was glad. He said, "Certainly I will share with you if you tell me the correct answer. Half will be yours, and half will be mine, and in addition, I will be everlastingly grateful." "Then here is the answer," the snake said. "The dream of the fox hanging from the palace roof means that there is cunning, deceit, and treachery in the kingdom." The farmer thanked him, and went on to the city. When his turn came, Ivan was brought before the king, and he interpreted the dream as the snake had advised him. So pleased was the king with the answer that he gave Ivan money and valuable presents. But when Ivan was ready to leave, he said to himself, "Why should I share these riches with a snake?" And he returned to his village by a different road, avoiding the place where the snake lived. Later, the king had another dream that troubled him. In this dream, he saw a sword hanging from the roof. He sent for Ivan immediately, because Ivan had given so wise an explanation of the first dreams. Ivan was now afraid, for he knew he had no special talents for explaining dreams. There was no choice but to look for the snake. He went to the narrow trail, but he saw no snake there. He called for him, saying, "Snake, come for a moment, I must talk to you." He kept calling this way, until at last the snake came out of his hole. "What troubles you, and what do you want of me?" the snake asked him. "The king has had another dream," Ivan said. "What shall I tell him?" "I will tell you the answer if you share the reward with me," the snake said. "I will share, I promise," Ivan replied. "Tell the king that the sword hanging from the roof is a sign of coming war," the snake said. "Enemies are plotting against him within the kingdom as well as outside the kingdom. Bloodshed is at hand. The king must prepare to defend the country." Ivan thanked the snake and went on to the city. When the king asked him for an interpretation of the dream, he repeated what the snake had said. Again, the king was deeply impressed with what he had heard, and he gave Ivan many valuable presents. But Ivan became angry at the thought of having to share with a snake. He came to the place where the snake had been waiting. The snake said, "Now give me the half which is mine." "I'll give you nothing but trouble," Ivan shouted. He drew his knife and attacked the snake, which turned and fled into its hole. But just as it was disappearing, Ivan brought his knife down and cut off the snake's tail. Then he went on home, thinking no more of the matter and rejoicing in his new wealth. Time passed. A bloody war came, as predicted, but the king's armies were victorious. Then the king had another dream. This time he saw a sheep hanging from the roof. Again Ivan was sent for, and this time he was worried and afraid. "For," he said, "how can I go now to the snake for help? I have deceived it and wounded it with my weapon." But he had no choice. So he went by the same path, and when he came to the rocky place he called the snake until at last it came. Ivan told of his problem, and the snake answered as before, "If you promise to give me half of your reward, I will give you the answer." "I will do it," Ivan said. "Then here is the answer to the king's dream. Snake said. The sheep hanging from the roof means that everywhere now there is peace in the land, and the people are contented. Ivan went to the palace and gave the king the answer. So pleased was the king with what he had heard that he gave Ivan more presents and money than ever before. This time Ivan came back by the same route, and he found the snake waiting. He gave half of his presents to the snake, saying, You have been patient with me, even though I have abused you. Here is half of what I received this time, and when I return home I will send you half of what I received before. Please forgive me for the way I mistreated you. The snake listened, and he replied, Do not feel too badly about what has happened. It wasn't your fault. The first time, if you remember the king's dream of the fox, the land was full of deceit, hypocrisy, and treachery. You too were a deceiver, for you went home by another road so as to avoid me. But you were simply one among many, and deceit was in the air. The second time, if you remember, was a time of war, quarrels, and assassination. Cruelty was everywhere. You were only one of many, and your brutality in cutting off my tail was a brutality shared by everyone. But now that peace hangs over us all. Like everyone else, you are generous and just, and you share your gifts with me. Go, brother, and may the peace of God remain with you. I have no need of your wealth. And the snake went away and disappeared into its hole.